obviously there's been a lot of Republicans that come out and criticize portions of your budget. Realistically speaking, when you guys go to find a compromise later on this year, where do you expect to, what do you expect that was most likely to change when you go to kind of meet a middle ground?
Well, I respect that there are those who are critical of my budget. I'm critical of my budget. Again, it's not the ideal budget that I would have chosen to present with inheriting a balanced budget, and the legislature's in the same difficulty. It's again, with a deficit of 19% of revenues, it's a challenge, which is now their responsibility. I've presented my best ideas for how to deal with this fiscal crisis. I saw that the assistant majority leader of the Senate last week agreed with me that it's a horrendous fiscal mess, so we concur with that. And over the next 2 months, the legislature will have an opportunity to devise its budget, pass a budget which will be different from mine, I expect. And then we'll have the last few weeks of the legislative session till the adjournment date of May 23rd to reach an agreement. And I should say, really, reach a compromise, because I don't expect us to agree with one another, except agree on the need that we have to compromise to come to a shared solution to this predicament. And that's what the people of Minnesota elected us to do. That's what they have a right to expect us to do. And the honest debates and disagreements we have is part of the great strength of democracy. I put back on my office wall a sign that Governor Purpich had. None of us are as smart as all of us, and I mean it sincerely. So anyone who has a better idea of how to approach this in a more effective way than what I've suggested, all ideas are welcome, from citizens as well as the legislators. That's another reason why it's intentionally a 5-month legislative session, so there's time for citizen input. Very important that legislators hear from those who will be affected by these decisions, so that their concerns can also be incorporated into our final solution. So we'll get there on May 23rd. As I'm quite.
Yeah, but what parts do you feel are most likely to change? Do you feel that you might be more likely than others to be subject to compromise or adjustment, if not,
My own belief is the best way to approach a negotiation where I know we're going to have to find common ground in the middle is not to say this is off limits or this is on limits. It's not conducive, and others have used the phrase, I don't, their feet are in cement. Well, you can't meet someone halfway if their feet are in cement. And it takes two to tango. I mean, it's going to take two sides to work this out. So my approach is to say, I have my priorities and others will have theirs, and that's part of the negotiating, deliberative process at the end after everybody's been as well informed as possible.
Is there a part of your budget that you feel particularly strong about, that you feel would be very important to survive the whole negotiating process?
Well, again, I think that we'll all be informed by the citizen input over the next couple of months, and I want to be respectful of that. It's important to me that the budget I present the principles and convictions I have, as well as the commitments I made to the people of Minnesota last year, which is one, to increase funding for K-12 education. Another was to protect local government aids and other property tax reliefs, to keep property taxes from going even higher than they have in Minnesota. Property taxes in the state have gone from $4 billion to $7 billion statewide. It's a 75% increase in eight years. And so the bill the legislature enacted last week would have increased property taxes for the next 2 years, according to the Minnesota Department of Revenue, by $428 million. And that was only for a $1 billion part of the $6 billion problem. So they implicitly acknowledge that the taxes are going to go up according to their scenario, and it's a question of not tax or no taxes, which tax on whom. And I will insist that these decisions be made with an eye toward what the effects are on local governments. And I go back again, the Minnesota Department of Revenue says for every dollar you cut in local government aid, city aid, county aid, property taxes go up by 67 cents. And so we cannot ignore that reality, because people in Minnesota, businesses, farmers, property taxpayers have seen that reality in their pocketbook over the last 8 years. Property taxes have gone up by 75% statewide. And those are directly as a result of the decisions that were made in St. Paul. And that can't be, if it's going to be continued, it at least has to be, its effects has to be acknowledged.
So ultimately the debate's going to be what taxes are going to go up, how they're going to go up.
Well, I said one of my principles last year, I still believe we need to make taxes less regressive in Minnesota. Again, Senator Patrick Moynihan, former senator from New York, said, you're entitled to your own opinions, you're not entitled to your own facts. And the facts are, according to the Minnesota Department of Revenue's tax incidence study, that the top 5% pay smaller percentage of their income in state and local taxes than everyone else. I'm trying to remedy some of that. Under Republican Governor Ernie Carlson, mid-90s, everybody paid pretty much the same percentage. When I ran against a conservative Republican Senator Rod Grams in 2000, he was said at the federal level it should be a flat tax. Everybody would say the same percent of their income in federal taxes. Well, my proposal doesn't even yet get us quite to the point of having a flat tax at the state and local level. It's still slightly regressive, but it's a lot closer to that tax equity than exists today, and I think that's an important principle, that taxes, whatever tax decisions the legislature and I enact, make taxes less regressive, not more regressive.
The Senate and House leadership was just here an hour ago. They criticized your proposal because of the property taxes that are part of it. Can you respond to that? While you're opposed to property taxes, they're saying that your plan would actually increase property taxes and that counties are concerned about it.
Did they say on who it would increase property taxes?
The corporate property taxes.
Well, the only property tax I'm increasing is on home, the part of home, the values that are over $1 million. I'm not increasing the state imposed part of local property taxes at all. And it stresses me if they're going to misrepresent my proposal, if that's what they actually said. And some of the headlines were, tax increase, as though it were a general tax increase. That's just not true. Now let's deal with the facts. My budget protects 95% of Minnesotans and all Minnesota businesses from paying any higher taxes that are imposed by the state of Minnesota. And that's why I've fully funded property tax relief. That's why I fully funded LGA and county program aid and everything else to the level that was established in the budget forecast. And so I wish, if they want to have a debate, I wish we could at least debate the facts.